Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Friday, the 7th of October. Well, it's a beautiful day out here in Brisbane, and hey, thank God it's Friday. Well, it is, and that's so much that's happening right here in Brisbane. We'll talk about a lot of those as we go along, but right now, it's 21 degrees and sunny, but right at this point in time, it's a little bit cloudy, a bit of overcast right at this point in time, but, you know, throughout the day, 21, getting up to about 23 later in the day, and it's sunny in Brisbane. So there we go. This is looking good to your introduction to the weekend. And we know that there's a lot that's happening in the weekend. Well, first of all, let's talk about what happened yesterday. So yesterday was the Bond, CQ and UQ university students. They had their function for this year. It was Once Upon a Time in Jaipur. We remember that previously they held Once Upon a Time in Mumbai. And I'll tell you what, hats off to these students. They just did a wonderful job of organizing, in the main auditorium of the City Hall, and very well organized and a completely sold out event, completely packed Brisbane's City Hall's main auditorium. And it was very well put together, the menu, the whole lot, and being a function organized by students and not any community organization, it is so good to see that our kids are doing so well when it comes to, remember, these are all proper university students, and they did just an amazing job of organizing and putting all of this together. Hats off. We will bring some glimpses probably, maybe if I get some time tomorrow, if we download all the photos from there, we'll have a look. All right, now let's get into the news for today, and we have in the endings bit, we will also have our daily India report. Well, right now, Australia, as we know, is facing a dire skill shortage. Here's that report.
Nurse Julia Farley's craving a hit of sugar and caffeine after a long day on her feet.
We'll spend an entire shift running around. We won't have a chance to go on a break because there's something that's urgent happening.
She's experienced firsthand the toll of a workforce in crisis as pandemic burnout drives many from the industry.
Everyone cheers when we have enough staff on a shift. There's so much overtime going around because there's just nobody.
New jobs data reveals a massive shortage of registered nurses.
What's a really critical situation now is that we're losing our experienced workers because the demand on them has been so strong.
153 occupations were short on staff last year. This year, that's more than doubled to 286 occupations. Along with nurses, software engineers and care workers are most in demand, followed by construction managers, childcare workers and mechanics. Last year, there were more than 200,000 job vacancies. Now that figure's up 40% to 309,000 jobs.
We have not sufficiently anticipated the changing nature of the labour market and the economy and invested in areas where there are those shortages.
The government plans to boost skilled migration and create a federal agency to address worker shortages. The Minister will meet state and territory counterparts tomorrow. Gabriella Marchant, ABC News.
And of course, any quick fix arrangement will also have consequences further down the track. So it has to be carefully thought of, and long-term implications also, taken into account, because, you can't just, if something's wrong now, just try and go and try and fix in whichever way that you'd like to just do. Well, right now, here's our next news, which is, of course, about the large water bomb that's sitting on above us.
Definitely a concerning couple of days ahead. There's currently 57 advice or watch and act warnings in play from the SES, affecting a large part of the state. And that number is set to increase in the next 24 hours as well. So really asking the communities in those affected areas to stay informed, monitor your local weather forecasts and your warnings. And the SES website is one of the best places to get the most up-to-date information on that. Obviously a lot of people on the roads, with school holidays ending and certain events taking place around the state. Avoid unnecessary travel if you're in those affected areas. If you need to travel, plan your trip accordingly, and you can use livetraffic.com as a good tool to do that. And never drive through floodwaters. Time and again we see the results of people attempting to drive through floodwaters and making very poor decisions and putting themselves and their families at unnecessary risks. So just really urging the community to be vigilant. Busy couple of days ahead. We're seeing ongoing major flooding in the west and the south of the state, and the coast is set to receive some heavy rainfall this weekend, raising that flash flooding and also riverine flood risk as well.
Yeah, what sort of calls have you been getting in for help?
So, of course, we know that whenever there's a flood, the key thing is if it's flooded, forget it. So, do not risk this. Do not drive through flooded waters. And there's so many calls that are coming, and there are so many areas where it is, alert has been put out to be vigilant, to keep and look out, and keep listening in for those alerts. And if you are asked to evacuate, ASAP, please. Right now, there have been calls for New South Wales government to recognise Indigenous cultural fishing rights. As we know, the Indigenous people, they're always dependent on fishing. So, when you look at recreational fishing as opposed to, their way of life, where is the difference? So they must be given that right.
It's always been in my blood to fish and to hunt and to gather and feed the mob.
For more than half his life, Kevin Mason has been pursued by fisheries officers at risk of being charged, fined and even jailed.
Stop! Fisheries, stop! Stop, Kevin, I want to check those fish!
As a traditional owner, Kevin is entitled to dive for abalone in these waters, located off the New South Wales south coast.
You know the rules here. I'm an native title holder, mate.
But it's hotly debated just how much he can take. Now he's too frightened to return to the ocean after this altercation with a fisheries officer 4 years ago.
Hey, come on. Come on.
2 years after the incident, he was charged with resisting arrest and obstructing a fisheries compliance officer.
I think that's them. Notice of listing. Local courts. If you do not appear at the time and place listed above, the case may be dealt with in your absence, and a warrant for your arrest may be issued. That freaks me out. And I haven't been in the water since this happened. Oh, look, I'm frailing away to nothing. It's worry, they got me worried that I'll be pinched again, and it's something that we've done all our lives until the fisheries come along.
Last month, just days before Kevin Mason was due to appear in court to defend the charges, they were dropped. Cultural fishing advocate Danny Chapman says this is part of a pattern, with a number of other cases dropped in recent years.
Kevin had a strong case. He had been prosecuted for the same thing 3 times before, and each of those times they took us right up to the precipice and then they withdrew the charges.
I mentioned before that the Indigenous fishing rights must be maintained. It's what they have always done, and they must be given that right. It is not recreational fishing, which is quite different to, the fishing that our Indigenous people do. Well, right now, let's go to our next report. Once again in Sydney, and this time a man has been charged for murdering his wife in the Sydney's eastern suburbs. That's just a preliminary inquiries at the moment, and we don't have the full report, but we will bring to you the full report as the case develops. Those plastic keep away police signs, and many times the danger ones with the yellow and black ones, how effective are those ones? I'd like to hear your views. You can have your views in our comment section of the feed. Well, right now, let's move on to the next. Well, let's go to Melbourne this time. And the Melbourne Anglican Archdiscourse takes issue and let's see that report.
Recent days, the Anglican Church has been thrust under the spotlight after former Essendon Football Club CEO Andrew Thorburn resigned a day into the role when it was revealed he was chair of a church that had articles on its website critical of abortion and homosexuality. Reverend Professor Dorothy Lee is with Trinity College, the Diocese of Melbourne, and a New Testament scholar. And she joins me in the studio now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in, because I wanted to get a sense from Anglicans out there what they thought when they heard about the words being used by City on a Hill, which is a church that is connected to your church, when they described abortion to the concentration camps and when they said that practising homosexuality was a sin.
Yes, I think many Anglicans, I would even dare to say most Anglicans, would have problems with those views. They do represent the views of a very vocal and a very strong minority of Anglicans, but I think most Anglicans would take a very different view from that, very different indeed.
The Premier, Dan Andrews, in Victoria described it as bigoted. He was pretty strong with his language.
Yes, he was indeed, and I think that there are real problems with some of the views of that church, as I see it, and as many Anglicans would see it, including, of course, the fact that their 6 leaders are all male. And they believe in the subservience of women to men, you know, that wives have to obey their husbands, women can't be leaders, can't have authority. I mean, there's a whole lot of problematical views from my point of view, and from my point of view as a biblical scholar. I don't think these views reflect what the Bible says at all.
Well, just back on City on a Hill, because this is part of the Anglican Church, and
Yes.
you know, you as a member have to deal with the fact that they are colleagues as part of the church.
Yes, indeed they are.
And they have, I should say, they have in the last 24 hours removed in writing the references that they've said they've regretted, the sermon. The video is still there.
Yes.
That hasn't been changed. Those words are still there.
Yes.
And even this is as Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, is in the country and has acknowledged the schisms within the Anglican Church that he says are dangerous.
Yes, they are dangerous. I think, though, we have to have a sense of tolerance for different views, even if they are obnoxious to us. I think
abhorrent.
Well,
would be the description, wouldn't it?
Yes, yes, indeed. I think some of those views are abhorrent. I think the attitude to women is abhorrent, and a whole lot of issues. Yes, I agree. But we are a civil society, and we need to debate these in the public forum, and we certainly debate them in the church. There's a lot of debate going on around these issues, even as we speak in the church, and that's the forum to do it, because we do have to have some sort of respect for religious freedom, but I don't think this is an issue of religious freedom. I think it's about corporate governance, which I think is a very different issue indeed.
It has raised, though, all these issues within the church.
Has raised
but you've now spoken about Andrew Thorburn, so
yes.
Should he have had to step away? He says that people haven't been tolerant of his faith.
Well, I mean, it's not a question of not tolerant of his faith. I don't think anyone's intolerant of his faith, at least it's not as far as I'm aware. The point is that he has to sign up to the values of the Essendon Football Club and the values of City on a Hill. And I don't see how, I mean, whatever his personal views, they are irrelevant here, or indeed his personal faith. But he has to sign up to 2 contradictory views, sets of views, and I'm not sure how he can do that.
Just finally, in regards to City on a Hill, it wants to continue expanding its teachings, which you've said you disagree with. How does that make you feel as a senior leader in the Anglican Church?
It makes me feel a little depressed, to be honest, because, you know, especially on the issue of women, where I've been campaigning for many years, it does. But on the other hand, it also makes me feel energetic to combat those views in respect.
And you know, when we look at that report, that is true for many communities where there are small minorities who are very vocal and who are out there with those kind of views, but those are not the views of the majority of the people. But this is what happens many a times with many groups. I'm not singling out any group. Many groups where there are the minorities who are more fanatic and they put out things on social media and other things, and it has a reflection on the whole wider community. But it is the view and the beliefs and the actions of those few minorities within that group. So that is, that report has just highlighted that fact. Well, right now in the next news, we go and take a look at, after the OPEC meeting, what is the status of fuel prices?
I mean, the oil markets are in a little bit of turmoil. If you speak to OPEC Plus, you speak to Saudi Arabia, you speak to the UAE, these countries yesterday made clear that as far as they're concerned, the move they took was a move that was necessary, and it was necessary to stabilize markets. One thing I just wanted to say before we continue, so we're talking about a 2 million barrel per day cut. That's the headline figure. You just mentioned it. The thing is, what we need to understand here is that this was actually a 2 million barrel per day cut in targets. So the way OPEC Plus has been functioning for the last 2-3 years is essentially when it goes to have these meetings, they agree on moving the targets up or down rather than actual production. And as of August, the latest month, which we have figures for, the OPEC Plus producers are producing roughly 3.5 million barrels per day below their targets. So the effective cut in actual production cut that we're going to see from yesterday's decision is closer to around 1 to 1.1 million barrels per day. That's a figure that the Saudi oil minister gave yesterday.
Well, that is an interesting point that you made. So maybe not as contentious as the reaction has been, but is there a sweet spot that these countries look at in terms of what they mean by stabilisation of the oil price?
So OPEC as an organization, they will always come out and say that we do not look at oil price. We do not target oil prices. Now, obviously, privately, I think a lot of these countries have their sweet spots. They all will privately talk about what they would prefer, what they would like, especially if you look in the Gulf. Currently, prices are down significantly, I'd say, over the last 3-4 months. But when you look historically over the last few years, it's still quite high. These prices are not bad for these countries. They're quite enjoying a boom, let's say, when it comes to the oil revenues they're getting in. So they're enjoying this period of time. Now they will again, when they talk about their discussions, they point to the fact that they're seeing demand weakness. They're seeing the threat of recession just around the corner. They look at China, which is a major demand center of the world, which is struggling to get out of these COVID lockdowns because of their zero COVID policy. So they're essentially decided that they're going to take this kind of action to get ahead of that issue.
It can't be helped but to be seen in a political light, given that one of these nations is Russia, who will benefit from this cut in production. And, the US in particular pushed for this not to happen because it does look like OPEC nations are siding with Russia. Is that the case, or do they see this very clinically in business terms?
So they as a group will say that they saw this clinically. They as a group do not like to... They say they're a technical organization. They leave politics at the door. But if we're talking about OPEC was the group that we were talking about as of a few years ago. More recently, we're talking about OPEC Plus, this larger group. That plus effectively is Russia with a few other countries, about 9 or 10 other countries. So Russia is a part of this group. So if we're talking about whether the Gulf countries or Saudi Arabia is siding with Russia, I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say that. But there's a clear understanding within OPEC Plus just how important Russia is to this group. This is a 10 million barrel per day plus producer under normal circumstances. And that brings a lot of additional clout to a group that, a lot of people were saying their impact on the market was waning in recent years. So they know very well that Russia needs to be kept on board, so to speak. So whether this is a decision to hurt the U.S. or whether this is a decision in favor of Russia, I think more likely this is a decision that all of them as a group thought was the right move for them. They will also say it's right for customers. So I mean, this is what I would agree with as well.
Yeah. For customers, though, it can mean a lot more pressure, and politically, so many countries are under enough pressure on the inflation front. It's also very difficult for countries in the European Union who are really struggling to wean themselves off gas and oil supplies from Russia.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an issue that was raised yesterday in the press conference. This is an issue that we've raised with the ministers before. When they look at the situation, though, they'll point to one thing. The issues that we're seeing in Europe at the moment are largely down to gas. They're not actually oil issues in that sense. As far as they're concerned, there is enough oil supply in the market. When it comes to oil products, this is an issue of refining capacity. There's a lack of refining capacity because of reduced investment over the last few years. And when it comes to gas, that's what they're lacking, not necessarily oil. So they kind of look at us and say, why do you always focus on the oil? Look at everything else. The Saudi oil minister he put out a table yesterday this showing the difference in prices between several things, so oil, gas, coal, between January and September. And when you look at those numbers, you saw that oil prices are maybe, between 5 and 6% higher than they were in January. But when you look at things like LNG, gas, coal, these are much, much higher. We're talking 50, 60, 70 higher percent difference. So as far as they're concerned, they're just saying, let's be fair. Let's look at the situation at the moment. When it comes to oil, we're not in a bad situation. We could send you more oil. But the problem with Europe is they don't have enough refining capacity to take that oil.
There you are. That's the update on the OPEC situation, and the fuel prices may rise. Well, right now, this is a bit of a shocking news coming out of Thailand, where a gunman kills 37 people in this mass shooting.
The Royal Thai Police say it was just after lunchtime on Thursday when a man armed with a knife and a gun went into the Uthai Sawan Child Development Centre in northeast Thailand and began his attack. They say he was agitated initially and then became even more agitated when he couldn't find his own child. First, he attacked around 4 or 5 staff members, including a woman who was 8 months pregnant. And then he went room to room attacking the children, before then driving to his own home and killing his wife and his child before turning the gun on himself. Police say this was a 34-year-old man who was a former police officer, that he was fired from the force a year ago on drug-related charges, and on the morning of this shooting he was in court in northeastern Thailand answering drug-related charges. Prayut Chan-o-cha, Thailand's Prime Minister, has said that he's been deeply shocked by this incident, and he has given his condolences to all of the families affected by this. They'd been gathering in an area close to the childcare centre waiting for news. And it was a terrible situation, people sitting in silence there waiting to find out whether their child was caught up in this, was still at the daycare centre or had been taken to hospital, and perhaps there was some hope there. The hospital has been asking for blood donations, and there's no doubt the local community in this rural part of northeastern Thailand will rally around the families and do whatever they can to help. Police have promised a thorough investigation and as many resources as is needed to look into the gunman's motives and where he got his weapons from. Weapon ownership in Thailand is high, but mass shootings are very, very low. They're rare. The last one was in 2020 when a soldier attacked at a shopping centre in the Nakhon Ratchasima province, killing 29 people and injuring 57. That was a deeply shocking incident for this country, and there is absolutely no doubt that in the northeast of Thailand, as well as right across this country, people will be heartbroken by this incident that has attacked children.
And that is such a tragic news, as we know. There's more coming your way as the updates come in through. But right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. Official statement says that Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has not only thanked India for support but also talked about nuclear safety and cooperation. It is significant that even while India abstains from voting at the UN Security Council on Russia's annexation of Ukraine territories, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky on 4th October, and Modi said that now is not the time of war. Zelensky has thanked Modi for their support. Thanking the Indian Prime Minister for his support of Ukraine's integrity, Zelensky emphasized the importance of his recent statement. Indian officials said even during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization conclave in Samarkand, Modi spoke to Putin about the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict on the sidelines of the meeting. Taking note of the dialogue between both leaders in Uzbekistan, the Ukrainian president has underlined the importance of Prime Minister Modi's message and renewed his invitation to the Indian leader and urged him to visit the Eastern European country. Zelensky and Modi held discussions on global food security, and a press release by the Government of India stated that Ukraine was ready to continue acting as a guarantor of the world's food security. Both also talked about nuclear safety and cooperation within international agencies, mainly the United Nations. Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao has also thrown his hat into the ring in an attempt to gain national political stature. Rao has announced the transition of his party as a national political party, renamed BharatRashtraSamiti. Telangana Rashtra Samiti has been a regional party. Its chief and Telangana Chief Minister Rao has clearly demonstrated that he is aspiring for a national role ahead of the 2024 elections. He launched the Bharat Rashtra Samiti, a new version of his party, at an auspicious time of 1:19 p.m. on October 5th. TRS is now Bharat Rashtra Samiti, Rao declared after a party meeting. Workers celebrated by bursting crackers and splashing the party's colour pink on the city of Hyderabad. The name change was conveyed to the Election Commission, which has rules for recognizing any party as national. The new party, to be deemed a national entity, must be recognized as a state party in at least 4 states or has to have 16% of the votes in any 4 states and 4 Lok Sabha seats. Or the party must win 2% Lok Sabha seats in at least 3 states. For now, the TRS only has a strong presence in Telangana, which it rules. Rao has made it clear that he intends to take on the BJP and challenge Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2024. In the past year, he has vastly escalated his rhetoric against the BJP, skipping PM Modi's events and not even receiving PM at the airport. Before the event, KCR met with several political leaders, including his counterparts in other states, Mamta Banerjee, Nitish Kumar, Arvind Kejriwal, MK Stalin, Pinarayi Vijayan and Naveen Patnaik. The launch party was attended by former Karnataka Chief Minister HD Kumaraswamy and DMK ally Thol Thirumavalavan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi sounded the poll bugle in the northern hilly Himachal Pradesh state that will hold elections in November 2022. Modi was in Himachal Pradesh on October 5th and inaugurated the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Bilaspur. Modi paid obeisance to Lord Raghunath, becoming the first Prime Minister to take part in the Dussehra festivities at Kullu. Modi addressed a public meeting in Bilaspur after inaugurating the AIIMS, constructed at the cost of 1,471 crores or nearly $200 million. Modi told the rally, quote, "I have blown the victory bugle on the auspicious day of Vijayadashmi today, and I am sure the people of Himachal will re-elect the BJP," end quote. He credited the people of Himachal with the unprecedented development the state has witnessed. Modi said there was immense potential for medical tourism in Himachal as people coming for treatment could recuperate in the salubrious environment of the hill state. He said Himachal, known to be the land of valiant soldiers, would now be known for advanced medical facilities with the setting up of AIIMS and 5 new medical colleges. Taking part in the historic Kullu Dussehra festivities, he paid obeisance to Lord Raghunath at the town's Dhalpur ground and sought the blessings of about 50 deities who were part of the Rath Yatra of Lord Raghunath. BJP President JP Nadda, Governor Rajendra Vishwanath Arlekar, Chief Minister Jairam Thakur and Union Minister for Broadcasting and Information Anurag Thakur were present at both places. With flexible durations to longer stays, new UAE Visa Rules offer many benefits for Indians. UAE's new visa system has many benefits for Indians. From flexible durations to longer stays, there is a range of options that Indians can now pick for their travel. The United Arab Emirates Advanced Visa System, which was announced last month, is set to come into effect on October 10th. The new visa rules include a 10-year expanded golden visa scheme, a 5-year green residency favorable for skilled workers, and a new multiple entry tourist visa which will allow visitors to stay in the country for up to 90 days. The changes in immigration laws can have a major impact on tourists as well as those who wish to work or live in the UAE. The 5-year green visa will allow foreigners to sponsor themselves without seeking help from UAE nationals or their employers. For this visa, freelancers, skilled workers, and investors are eligible. Additionally, green visa holders can also sponsor their family members. In case the permit for a green visa holder expires, they will be given a 6-month extension. A 10-year expanded residency is offered under the golden visa for which investors, entrepreneurs, and individuals with exceptional talents will be eligible. Golden visa holders can sponsor family members and children. Tourist visas will now allow visitors to stay in the UAE for 60 days. A 5-year multi-entry tourist visa will allow visitors to stay in the UAE for up to 90 days in a row. The job exploration visa will allow professionals to seek employment in the UAE without a sponsor or host. US President Joe Biden has nominated Indian origin Dr. Vivek Murthy as the US representative on the WHO Executive Board. US President Joe Biden has nominated Indian origin Dr. Vivek Murthy to serve as America's representative on the Executive Board of the World Health Organization. 45-year-old Dr. Murthy will serve in the new position alongside his continued duties as the US Surgeon General, the White House said in a statement. He was confirmed by the US Senate in March 2021 to serve as the 21st Surgeon General of the country. He previously served as the 19th Surgeon General under President Barack Obama. As the nation's doctor, the Surgeon General's mission is to help lay the foundation for a healthier country, relying on the best scientific information available to provide clear, consistent and equitable guidance and resources for the public. As the Vice Admiral of the US Public Health Service Commission Corps, Dr. Murthy also commands a uniformed service of over 6,000 dedicated public health officers serving the most underserved and vulnerable populations. First Surgeon General of Indian descent, Dr. Murthy was raised in Miami and is a graduate of Harvard, the Yale School of Medicine and the Yale School of Management, the White House said. A renowned physician, research scientist, entrepreneur and author, he lives in Washington, D.C. with his wife, Dr. Alice Shen, and their 2 children. The decision of OPEC to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day will drive up oil prices worldwide. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its Russia-led allies have agreed to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day at a Vienna meeting. It is the deepest cut to oil production since the 2020 COVID pandemic. Oil prices had dropped to about $90 from the $120 3 months ago on fears of a global economic recession, rising US interest rates and a stronger dollar. However, the cut in real terms might be less than the headline figure, with multiple OPEC members currently producing less than their assigned quota. US President Joe Biden has expressed disappointment over the OPEC cartel's decision, saying it will hit countries already reeling under high prices while dealing with the continued negative impact of Russia's attack on Ukraine. President Biden ordered another dip into the country's strategic petroleum reserve, with 10 million barrels set to be put on the market next month in an attempt to dampen price rises. Meanwhile, the Indian government has put off by 1 month the levy of an additional 2 rupees per litre excise duty on petrol and diesel that is not doped with ethanol and biodiesel in a bid to give the industry more time to implement the measure. Intense rain spells are expected in the hill states of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and parts of northeast India. The India Meteorological Department has said that intense rain spells were expected in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh until the weekend. Heavy rainfall was likely in parts of east and northeast India over the next 3 to 4 days. Short spells of rain were also expected to continue in parts of northwest and central India on October 6th, the India Meteorological Department said. The IMD said that a low-pressure area lies over the west-central Bay of Bengal and neighbouring areas. It is very likely to move west-northwestwards towards the Andhra Pradesh coast in the next 2 days. A trough runs from a cyclonic circulation associated with the above low-pressure area to Bangladesh at lower and middle tropospheric levels. IMD said widespread and light to moderate rainfall was expected in Odisha, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh states until October 8th. Fairly widespread to widespread light and moderate rainfall with isolated heavy falls and thunderstorms or lightning were likely in Uttarakhand state until October 9th. Bollywood fans were taken by surprise as Aamir Khan's latest film Lal Singh Chadda has started streaming on Netflix without any prior announcements. In a surprising announcement, Netflix India on October 5th stated that Aamir Khan's Lal Singh Chadda is now streaming on the OTT platform. The film, which is the official Hindi adaptation of Forrest Gump, features Kareena Kapoor Khan as the female lead and is directed by Advait Chandan. Making the announcement, Netflix India shared a new poster of Lal Singh Chadda on their Instagram page and wrote, "Keep your Golgappas ready because Lal Singh Chadda is now streaming. Hashtag Aamir Khan, at Kareena Kapoor Khan, at Mona J. Singh, at Aamir Khan Productions, at Viacom 18 Studios, at Paramount Pics." Aamir had reportedly said earlier that Lal Singh Chadda would stream on an OTT platform only after 6 months of its theatrical run. But the poor box office performance of the film seems to have been the reason for the change. In a statement prior to the release of Lal Singh Chadda, the star said that one of the main reasons for less interest in going to the movies is that movies quickly appear on OTT once they are released in cinemas. Lal Singh Chadda also features Nag Chaitanya making his Hindi debut and Mona Singh in a supporting role. The film marks the second outing of Chandan as a director after Secret Superstar, which also had Aamir Khan in a pivotal role. Lal Singh Chadda hit the theatres on August 11, 2022 on the occasion of Raksha Bandhan. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report.
And thank you very much for that update. Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that what we have today. Later in the day, we will have Suman Dua here at 4 p.m. today. And of course, Suman will be bringing the migration Safar, and that is a wonderful program where she will be taking in live questions. So if you have any live questions about migration details, that they will all be answered right here on the studio. So that program goes live to air at 4 p.m. today. And that's a wonderful program where Suman answers all your questions regarding migration, and that is done via sending in questions in our comment section. So that program will be coming up at 4 p.m. live from here. And of course, what's going to happen tomorrow? Tomorrow we have this month's episode of Aapki Sehat, which is brought by
Hello, listeners.
Medical Association, and of course Dr. Cheryl Fernandez, who will be in here as well, and interviewing. And every month, he interviews new candidates, and there's some very, very important topics that are discussed in Aapki Sehat. So that will be on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Well, right now, let's move on and take a look at some of the functions and events that will be taking place into the weekend. Well, ladies and gentlemen, 9th October, Brisbane Convention Centre. We have this free egos also happening, and if you haven't got your tickets yet, now is the time to get your tickets, and we'd like to see you all there because tickets are available on tickettech.com. Sri Agosal, one big mega show at the Brisbane Convention Centre this Sunday. We'd like to see you all there. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very special segment on today. And don't forget that tomorrow we have 9 a.m. for the news. And then at 10 a.m. we will have Aapki Sehat, the doctor's monthly program. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us.